Alrighty then. Hello everybody, and welcome to another stream of Valhalla and a Falcon. If he's still around. Stockton? Oh no. Stockton? That's weird. I got muted for a second on Discord.
Yeah, you were. I thought you was muted. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna chill.
That's weird. I never did that on purpose. We're gonna turn.
Hilarious.
Alright, we'll leave that off. Just a little. Okay. Oh, so the recording is what causing the issues.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Big rip, my dude.
I don't know how to fix that.
No idea. Unfortunately, I don't have very much experience with OBS, unfortunately.
Okay, well then I'm just gonna load the actual Vigigoats. And we can begin the discussion. If anybody joins, please let me know if you know how to fix this. Because it's driving me nuts. I'm pretty sure that's why nobody watches my stream. In fact, I'm almost positive.
You just need to get out there a little bit more. More people to view, more people to share. Oh, let's keep.
You know, the
You did
issue
pretty
is
well.
I'm also recording everything, so with that, it seems it makes the stream a little spotty. So
Yeah,
definitely need a new CPU.
definitely, dude. Unfortunately, the deal for the CPU motherboard combo is, of course, already expired.
Yeah, of
But
course.
I keep looking for those deals, my dude.
It's always these skinny buildings. I swear, these skinny little buildings never stay around long.
Skinny buildings.
Yeah. You'll see him in a second if you're watching this stream.
I think we need to tweak your settings because each time I try to watch your stream, it's always like super, unfortunately, laggy.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying though, because like that's from the recording. So maybe when I do stuff later, I won't actually record. I'll just take it off of Twitch. See if I can do that.
Yeah, just download the whatchamacallit, the
video.
yeah, the VOD. Yeah, that's the word.
Yeah. Okay. I have to download my own stream. Gosh. The nerve. Yeah. I'll just do that until I can afford a CPU. But until then, Mr. Stockton,
Mm-hmm.
why are we here today? Do you remember?
Drugs? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's in regards to what you posted in Discord about the Doctrine, Covenants, Religions of Joseph Smith.
Yes. It is indeed. Oh, jeez. Game just lagged.
Well, this is City Skylines after all. But
Yeah. And City Skylines is a little laggy, but that's just because that's just how the game is.
yeah. Need that better CPU.
Yeah, no, for real though. Well, it's not even just that. Like, even for high-end PCs, it will still run with low frames when you get a big city. I am
Yeah,
by
big
no
city
means
build.
is this really big, but because if you look on YouTube, I can guarantee you'll find somebody like oh darn, what was his name? His name was Flux back in the day, but like he built this huge city that he called Fluxburg, which took up basically the entire map, and it was beautiful. I will say the least. It was huge. It would probably kill my computer.
Yep, sir.
Okay. Alright, but going back to the topic at hand, Joseph Smith and his revelations. Which a lot of people would say aren't real, I guess you would say.
More modern day would be a better way to put it.
Yeah. Well, because, well, not only that, but like a lot of people don't think that Revelation is a thing anymore.
And if people know a little bit about the history of Joseph Smith, like, he's heard a lot of the opinions of people like, oh, Revelation stuff, at least for the Christian standpoint. And that everything's kind of stopped, and nothing new will ever come again.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a fallacy that, unfortunately, I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't ever believe anymore. That some will still believe that God's still with us and will still be a guidance to everybody.
Oh, yeah.
And so this modern day revelation was definitely heavily criticized, but in the end, it still has stand to this day.
Yeah. It's still there, which,
yep.
I mean, when you look at it from an objective standpoint, I guess it's like when you've lived in the church your whole life, it's kind of common knowledge, and there's nothing really. Oh, look, it's a very weird-looking station wagon. Okay, it was very controversial when the church first started. Was the idea of modern day revelation.
Yeah.
And the Doctrine and Covenants is a book of Joseph Smith's revelations, which much of the world saw kind of, well, a lot of people saw it as just, they kind of just wrote it off. Nobody really said anything bad about it or anything that I can really remember. I don't know. What do you know of anything anywhere where it's kind of taboo?
Not really, because a lot of things have always come out, and we never really have a problem with. Like, as the example, the only thing like I didn't really know about while growing up, but I usually know now, just because it's like been more officially spoken about, and we don't really have. There's really no reason to be so hush hush about it, or not really stay about it. Like, for example, like the translation of the Book of Mormon. Was that a lot of times when I grew up, I just learned, oh, he translated it through the power of God. That was how I learned it. But through, unfortunately through some other sources, but then officially through, some of the Ensign or Liahona articles and that, where you officially learned that there was multiple ways how Joseph Smith, through his own personal progression with translation, how first it was, I'm trying to remember. The ones that pop into my head, besides of course him reading it directly and just translating it word for word. Other ones include from the Seer Stones, basically that he found with the gold plates, or like basically a chest plate with a pair of glasses attached to it, which helped him translate it. Then after he was spiritually strong enough, he was able to no longer needed them. Then he had another one with he got a Seer Stone, which there's a picture of it somewhere online of a representation of that Seer Stone. That he put into a hat.
Which the church posted, by the way.
Yeah, it's all online, easily searchable by the church. And that he would look into a hat and be able to see that translation of the Book of Mormon, understand, and help translate it. And then it ended up then being where he was basically the best way to describe it, so spiritually strong that he didn't need anything. He was able to, through the power of God, directly translate it from the plates and have his the dictation done.
Yeah, he didn't have to like completely look at it all the time. Not look at it per se, but
he would look at it and then read it and not have any Probably.
Yeah, he wouldn't have to use the Seer Stones all the time, because, I mean, it was just given to him. And that was part of that revelation process, which is pretty cool when you think about it, because when you you have all these people who study for years just to learn how to even just translate or just learn how to pick up on words from a different language. They study for years. And I don't mean years lightly. I mean tons of years. Like, for ancient languages, that is. And Joseph Smith comes in and he just immediately starts. He just goes at it. And that baffles people, because this guy only had a third grade equivalent of an education. So, like, there's no bleeding way that he could have just gotten in there and been like, oh, hey.
Exactly.
So, I mean, like, yeah, there's just, you have all these different things to just kind of show Joseph Smith's spirituality, like where he was on that level. But at the same time, one of the things I think is very neat and interesting is when you look at, like, just the very purpose of his revelations. One of the fun things that I'd love to look at is you look at the revelations, and a lot of what you see are questions that are brought to Joseph Smith. And not all of them are just questions about about the just about gospel things. A lot of them are also questions just about like, okay, no, not about gospel things. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Not all of them are questions directed towards God. They're directed towards Joseph Smith because, for one, a lot of people just figured that Joseph Smith knew everything, which, quite honestly, when you put him hand in hand with the knowledge that God gave him, he kind of did, but at the same time, it was very limited. But when you look at the revelations, a very large chunk of them come because people ask him a question. And, like, if he didn't know it, the very first person he would go to was God. There was nobody on the side he would go to for advice, not even his father. He would go straight to the Lord. And that question would ultimately bring us what we have as the Doctrine and Covenants today. Which I think is probably one of the greatest things, is because that whole thing stemmed from questions that members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints themselves had. And so, oh, this is a little busy street there. Not as bad as the other city. But, like, one of my favorite ones, and I've quoted this one before, is D&C 121, which is actually Joseph Smith's own question. But then you also have what we know as, what the members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints call the Word of Wisdom, which I think we spoke about last time, did we not?
Think so.
Because, yeah, it was because Emma was getting a little disgusted, and then there were members who had questions about those things. And I actually read one today, which was a couple of the members who kind of stood kind of high in as far as the church goes, because they helped Joseph Smith in translating the Book of Mormon, or they helped lead and guide the church at the time, like one of them being Sidney Rigdon, but it was a couple of different men who were a part of a religious group called the Shakers. I don't know if you know who they are, Stockton.
Kinda.
Okay. But yeah, basically, back then the Shakers were people who believed that Jesus Christ had already come, and that he'd come in the shape of a female. Of a woman. Which honestly, these days, a lot of people would be like, "Oh, that's blasphemous," and I believe that was how a lot of people looked on it back then too. And these two gentlemen who had joined the church came to Joseph Smith with these questions like, "Hey, is this actually a thing?" And Joseph Smith was immediately like, that's a good question. Let me go ask Heavenly Father." So he went and asked the Lord, and his response was basically, and let me just throw a few more things out there about this church, is that they believed that marriage wasn't a thing, that they should live in celibacy, and that meat was like straight up bad. Eating anything meat was bad. And it's funny because this is like one of the first times you see where the Lord is just like, "Hey, these things are good." Well, at least when it comes to meat and food and stuff like that, it's one of the first times that you see anything about diets and stuff like that. But he says that marriage is of God, and I'm just paraphrasing this, by the way. He says marriage is of God and meat is okay. It's perfectly fine. And then he told these two men to take it to the members of that church, what they had just been told through revelation, and tell these people to help share their experience with the people of the world. And I just think it's really cool when you see that, because it just goes to show like, hey, the Lord wants people to know the rightness or just like the wrongness of their ways, and wants them to follow His path. It's one of the very first things that I believe they were actually some of the first missionaries that went out there. Because I know there was a couple of them that went out. I think Parley P. Pratt was one of them. He went up to Canada. Actually, he taught my ancestors and baptized a few of them, which was actually really cool. When I found, yeah, when I found that out, I was like, "Whoa!" My mom's side, actually. And so I have that fun little part of my history. But yeah, no. So like here, it's one of the first examples of missionary work, and I believe it was section 49. But like it's just one of the many revelations that kind of shows you who Joseph Smith was and his mentality when it came to knowledge. I don't know, Stockton. What's one of your favorite scriptures out there? Oh, from the Doctrine and Covenants.
That's a good question. I think off the top of my head. One of my favorite ones, and this comes from my mission, just because last time I remember I had shared it, and it really left an impression upon me. Was that it was like section 111, I believe, is the last verse. It was talking about how and the whole section is about like making sure that members don't go into debt and all that they can just pay within their means and not don't overly use items or don't go into debt. And
Yeah.
so one of them was, and this is when the church was definitely heavily in debt. I'm just trying to build a temple and all that stuff. And so what had transpired though was that the very last verse talks about don't worry about your debts currently. I will take care of them. And so that was a big blessing. She just loved that scripture to know that for all purposes. And she lived her life that way. She always lived within her means. Her and her family never had to really worry about any debt. And whenever something did happen and she had to borrow some money, she was always very quick with trying to get it back and paid as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the cooler parts. Like, that's one of my favorite scriptures as well, just because God will make sure He knows that we're taken care of, that anything does happen, that do our best, and so He will make sure that we get taken care of.
Yeah. No, I think that's, it's funny because that you bring that up, just because it kind of proves like where the members of the church's mindset was. Because I mean, we look at the church from these days, and yeah, it was very young and very primitive back then, but it was also very what's the word I'm looking for? I guess straightforward.
Yeah.
And there was nothing really. I'm trying to think of the word to say. Phooey. Like, there wasn't anything that God was going to hold back. He wanted his children to have knowledge, to be successful in this life. And when members would ask, having faith that he would have an answer for them, he would give that answer. And he still does that today on a very regular basis. And a lot of people kind of are especially, I don't know, because on my mission I met a lot of people who obviously were concerned that they weren't going to get answered. I had that come up a lot, actually. And it was kind of... And I hate to put it this way, but it made me very sad to see that people had had that little faith in receiving an answer. But that just goes to show you just like how different things are from the way they were, if you get my meaning. Because back in those times, God was a normal thing in life. He was ever present, ever there. And the people always believed in him. It wasn't like today where you have people who trying to figure out how to say this. I don't know if they don't want to or if they just can't believe in it because of everything that has transpired these days. It's I mean, it is sad, but at the same time, like, you can't help but understand where people come from. Because you look at what's going on in the world. I mean, especially what has happened over the last couple of weeks. You look at what's going on in Georgia right now. It's a mess. And people will ask, like, why these things are happening. And one of my favorite things about the Doctrine and Covenants is I guess you could say it's a journal. It's a history of questions asked by the members of the church. The one I always like to quote, 121:7, was, like I mentioned last time, it was Joseph Smith asking God where he was. He wanted to know why God had forsaken the people of the church, why he wasn't there fighting for them, and why he wasn't watching. And it wasn't... And God told him, like, it wasn't because... Oh, there's a person sitting there. Interesting. It wasn't because of... Oh, what am I thinking of? I lost my train of thought from that. Dang it. What was I saying, Stockton?
Basically the last thing I heard, sorry. Just mine's being a little weird at the moment. I was talking about how the Doctrine and Covenants was kind of like a journal, essentially. Joseph revelations of all the questions that him, his friends, family, and other followers had in regards to the church, in regards to modern revelation, in regards to just questions they wanted to know. Like, I'm doing something wrong? Basically, is kind of the best way you can check it up for it.
Yeah. And I kind of just remember where I was going with what I was saying is that, like, because the Lord just kind of said that he was there. When you look at the history of the church and look at the lives of the saints, you kind of look at that and wonder, like, I don't see him anywhere. But when you look at it from from the perspective that he gave to Joseph Smith, and that was to look at the experience that the saints would gain, and that was ultimately the purpose for all of it. Was that's a nice view. That the saints, though they were going through a very rough time with things, were going to take what they learned, and it would later help spread the gospel to the entire world. You look at what the church is today, and I doubt it would be where it is. Oh, jeez, what? I had plenty of power. What's going on? Hold on. Pausing.
I am holding the phone.
Oh, that's right. This isn't the place I was just at. Where? Alright, go ahead. Place a bunch of these right over here. But yeah, like the Saints would, like, let's take missionaries for example. They take, and I'm gonna say it straight up, they take a lot of crap from people.
Yep, sir.
And a lot of people will vouch for that, and because there's a story that one of our beloved apostles, Elder Holland, told of his sister who, I mean, it's a very strange example, but somebody threw potatoes at her and got it in her hair, and kind of yelled at her. But like on my mission, I got yelled at a lot, and it was mostly by born again Christians. And it's very interesting when you look at it like that, because most people would take that and be like, oh, well, I'm done with this. I can't do this anymore. There's a lot of people who can't take being yelled at very well. And, I mean, at one point, that was me. I could not deal with being reprimanded or yelled at. I don't know about you. But, yeah. No, it's not fun. Granted, going back to the topic that that we were just talking about, like the Saints dealt with a lot. Yeah. No, like it's completely different. They were shot at, killed, even drove from their homes. Their homes were burned, literally. And people were torn out of their homes and tarred and feathered on a regular basis. It's nothing like today. Today it's all just a war of words. We don't see any like physical harm. Well, at least not as much. There is physical harm to members of the church, but you rarely see it, especially here in the United States, where for so long religion has been recognized as a freedom. Unfortunately, it is a freedom that is slowly starting to be pulled out, I guess you could say. I don't know, Stockton. But, yeah. And when you look at the revelations of Joseph Smith, and just an FYI, the Doctrine and Covenants is not it's not fully from Joseph Smith. I can't remember which. Do you remember which ones? Which sections that were by Joseph F. Smith?
I know it's probably a few of the last ones.
Yeah, because I know a few of the last ones were, and some of them were something that kind of got blown up, and that was his vision of the afterlife. I don't know if you remember that vision at all, Stockton.
I'm trying to remember. You gotta bear with me.
Oh, you're good.
A little bit. I don't know. You continue with that because you have a better idea.
So, I mean, and this isn't exactly a question about anything in specific that Joseph F. Smith had at the time. I think it was more of just something to help calm the Saints down during a very tumultuous time. And if you, for those of you watching who didn't know, Joseph F. Smith was actually, wasn't he the son of Joseph Smith? One of the sons of Joseph Smith?
I think so.
Yeah, no, he was. Because I remember, because my mom was related to him. But he had a vision that showed the afterlife, but in it were the prophet Joseph Smith and Brigham Young. and they kind of said something to him that had a lot to do with the ordinances for the dead. I can't remember for the life of me. I'd have to see if I can pull it up. Where did my phone go? There it is. I don't know, Stockton. Do you know it at all?
I don't.
Lost. Because I know it's like, I think it's the last one. What? The last section, actually. Yeah. So, yeah, it was a vision given to President Joseph F. Smith in Salt Lake City on October 3rd, 1918, in his opening address at the 89th Semi-Annual General Conference of the Church. President Smith declared that he had received several divine communications during the previous months. One of these concerning the Savior's visit to the spirits of the dead while his body was in the tomb. So, it's actually one of my favorite ones to think about, because this is where we got our basic doctrine, and where Jesus Christ was during in between his resurrection and his death. This is where we actually got our belief system in that. And that is that, well, Jesus Christ, when he died, he didn't just hang in limbo for a few days and just rest. His first duty, I guess you could say, his first act immediately after his death was to go to the spirit world among the spirits that were already there, who had already passed on, and to teach them the very same principles that he taught in Jerusalem. And it's one of the things that got the world a little bit worked up, because it's a doctrine that not very many religions these days actually believe, and it's kind of obvious why, because it doesn't fully go into that in the New Testament. I don't know if you knew that, Stockton, what I was just talking about, but it's probably one of the coolest things in the Doctrine and Covenants. But yeah, one of my favorite ones that I totally forgot about till just now, actually, because I'm gonna be honest, life's been busy.
That's true.
Uh-oh. He fell. But just really quick, we're gonna just a quick little toss in there. I see that there's 3 people watching. If you have any questions or any comments, just throw them in chat, please, because this is going on YouTube. I don't care how spotty this is; it's going on YouTube. And I know this is that the video quality is kind of cringeworthy. I'm going to be working on that in the future. Hopefully, we can get that fixed. But yeah, just throw a question or a comment in, something you want to say. This is supposed to be going out to all the world if all the world wants to see it. But yeah, it's something that I want. Like, I chose to do this, and I want people to know, and people to throw in their little 2 cents or whatever they feel like, because this is ultimately about learning. That's why I'm doing this, and that's why Stockton joins me every